Jeannie, I'd like to first of all say hello and how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Welcome to the UK. It's very nice of you to come all the way over from America to make this DVD with us. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are not aware of your connection with the one and only Elvis Presley. Perhaps it'd be a good idea if you could take us back to how that connection started. It started, if I'm right, with a beauty contest.
Yes, well, it first started when I was Miss Rhode Island Universe in 1972, and I became roommates with Linda Thompson in the Miss USA pageant. And it's pure fate because those girls are put together randomly. I think they do try to put the North and the South together, but I was lucky that I happened to have Miss Tennessee as the Southern state. So we do believe that was fate, and we hit it off beautifully, became like sisters, and I have a twin, so I can say that comfortably. She was just a love. She was beautiful, she was talented, and just charming and funny. So we got along beautifully. So after the pageant, she actually said to me, why don't we get an apartment together? And she said, but somebody's going to have to move. And she said, you'd love Memphis. She said, it's wonderful. There are really cute guys that live there. And she said, and Elvis lives there. And I said, really? And I said, I didn't know that. I knew he lived in some southern state, but I really didn't know where. So I said, yeah, okay, we'll try that. I'll make the arrangements. So made all the arrangements, gave notice at work, said I was leaving. And so July 1st, 1972, I arrived in Memphis, and Linda greeted me with her family, and they had a big sign up at the airport, and it said, welcome, Jeannie, Miss Rhode Island. Her Aunt Betty, Uncle Steve, and the children Lori and Brenda and David greeted me, and they were just marvelous. So that was July 1st, and on July 6th, we went to lunch one day. We were going to lunch, and she said, where would you like to go to lunch? She said, Lafayette Restaurant or Fridays, which was next door. And at the time, Rhode Island didn't have any Fridays restaurants. I don't know if they have any in the UK, but it's kind of a red and white kind of checkered look to it, and outdoor dining and all that, bar area, and it looked like fun. So I said, let's go there. And if we hadn't gone there, none of this would have happened. So I think also that was fated. And we walked in. Of course, the place is packed. Everybody's milling around. And so this gentleman named Bill Browder came up to her, and they're chatting away. And of course, I was still Miss Rhode Island, and she was Miss Tennessee. And she knew everybody, including him. And at the time, he was a record producer. He became T.G. Shepherd. He changed his name, and he became a singer and sang Devil in the Bottle. And that was one of his hits. But at the time, he was a record producer, and I guess he knew some celebrities. So he asked her, I didn't really hear this, but he asked her he said, Elvis is in town, and how would we like to meet Elvis? And I didn't know this. She told me after, she said, well, Bill asked us if we wanted to meet Elvis at the Memphian Theater that he rents out at midnight. And I said, yeah, sure. I said, Linda, he probably just, wants to ask you out, and this is his way of impressing you. So she was this young little innocent girl, and she didn't, I think, believe that, but I'm very protective, and that's in my mind. Being from the North, I just felt that was the way that this was going to go. So I said, okay. I said, we'll go. Well, we were supposed to model fur coats that night, and this is kind of funny. Linda said, well, we really should do this, and I guess this was one of her obligations for the pageant through her director. And I said, Linda, how many opportunities do we get to meet Elvis? I said, we are going. So she got her cousins Lori and Brenda to model the fur coats. And I don't think her director ever forgave her for it, but I think eventually she did under the circumstances. But when we got there, when we arrived at the Memphian, we walked in to the lobby, and Bill Browder was with a girl. And so that calmed me right down. I thought that wow, apparently he was telling the truth. I mean, this is wonderful. So we're still all milling around, and all of a sudden, Elvis comes crashing through the doors with Red West. And I mean, it just kind of startled me, and he kind of like, stopped for like a minute, but he was dressed with the black cape and with the red satin lining and the high collared white shirt. And I just kind of poked Linda and said, he looks like Dracula, don't you think? And it's just, to me, I said, wow, he really is dressing like the king of rock and roll here. But because of, the high collar and the red, it kind of, was funny. And he looked beautiful. He looked absolutely beautiful. And it was a vision. It was really a vision. And so he went into the main area with the seats. And we all followed him. It's like everybody follows the king. And he sat about 10 rows down, and he had about a couple of girls, couple of guys with him, but mostly girls, obviously. And so when Linda and I were starting to walk down, that's when Bill Browder said, Elvis, I'd like you to meet Linda Thompson, Miss Tennessee, and this is her friend Jeannie LeMay, Miss Rhode Island. And he said, pleased to meet you and all that. And that's all that was said at that point. And so that I remember. And then so Linda and I sat down, like I said, about 10 rows in back of him. And she was almost at the end of the aisle. There was one seat vacant. And I don't know if she did that deliberately. I just thought maybe she did do that deliberately. I don't know. But anyway, I sat on the side of her. And George Klein came and sat with us. Actually, I think as the movie was starting, and it was a karate movie. I don't know what the title was. Believe me, I have no clue. But George was sitting there, and they were carrying on this conversation, and Linda did say something. Oh, I'm sorry. She did say before the movie started. That's right. My aunt told me to tell you that she didn't blame you for leaving the Lauderdale courts because she got out of there also. Okay, because obviously we all know he lived in Lauderdale courts, and it was a poor section to live in, and he seemed to be intrigued by her confidence because she was so animated and bubbly and not intimidated whatsoever. And that's all I remember about that. And like I said, when George came and sat down, it was very comfortable, very relaxed. I really didn't hear what they were talking about, so I can't tell you. But all of a sudden, Elvis, because he kept turning around, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he gets up and he goes to the back. And I thought he was going to get popcorn, candy or something. And George Klein flew out of the chair in the middle of the conversation. And I know they had some kind of signals, about women, if they were safe or not, or whatever. But all I know is instead of George coming back to sit down, Elvis came and plopped right in the chair. And just without hesitation, Linda said, because he just plopped, and I kind of like jolted, like, wow, to myself. And she, without hesitation, it just goes to show you what kind of confidence this girl had, said, to what do we owe this honor? Very, very cocky.
Yeah.
And Elvis, was taken aback, I guess, because nobody talks to Elvis like this, and said, stuttering, I just thought I'd sit down. And, I was like poking her like, you can't talk like that to Elvis Presley. And she said she had bruises because of all the poking that I did, and I'm sure of it because I was so mad at her. And so when we were sitting there, I do remember at one point, because I didn't hear the whole conversation, but I did hear her say, "We're dressed a little like Dracula, aren't we?" And I gave her a poke in the gut. Again, I must have really, I thought I broke a rib when at that point because, I think he just laughed. I'm going to say laughed because I'm in England right now. I love it here. And you know, it just goes to show that she really knew how to handle this guy, and she was a wit, a total wit, and understandably, because the girl can write songs. And I mean, she wrote poetry ever since she was a little girl, and she even told her dad, I mean, she said this in many interviews, that when she was 8 years old, she said, Daddy, she said, if I can't marry you, she said, I'm going to marry Elvis Presley.
That's
And I thought
amazing.
that was precious.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I did. He was intrigued, I think, that she had the confidence to talk to him like that, and I think that is what really appealed to him and made him think that this was a girl who had his number, so to speak, and knew how to handle him. And so they started a little conversation, and he started to get a little friendly, and he started to put his arm around the chair, and his fingers were touching my shoulders. And thank God I have broad shoulders, because it was like I was going like this. No, I'm kidding. But I couldn't believe that this was Elvis Presley, and sitting there, and it was touching my shoulder, and I was just so. I was intimidated. I was. She wasn't. So I was thrilled beyond words, and I didn't know what to say. I was just so like wanting her to say the right things and not blow this whole thing. And I was like, please, don't upset this man, and he's going to go away. But he was trying to kiss her then, and I could tell he was trying to like nuzzle up to her and kiss her, and all of a sudden. He said something like, honey, you think I'm married, don't you? And she said, well, aren't you? And he said, no. He said, I've been separated for a couple of months. And then she tackled him. No, I'm kidding. Then she relaxed a little bit. So, but I mean, they didn't go into this extreme lip lock or anything like that. I mean, I really don't even think he kissed her on the lips at all. I think he was just like kind of like kissing her neck and maybe a little bit on the cheek and all that stuff. So, it was just wonderful. So he did, during this conversation, invite her to Graceland the next night, the two of us, to Graceland the next night. I didn't know this until we actually walked out. And she said, we're invited to Graceland. I said, you've got to be kidding. And this would be a Friday night, because actually it was July 6th that we technically were supposed to meet him, but you figure if it's midnight, it was midnight that we met him. It was actually July 7th. So it's still July 7th now. It's a Friday night, and we were invited to Graceland, and so we started screaming, in the parking lot when she told me, and so excited. And so when we pulled up to the gate, of course, Uncle Vester let us in, and she had this little blue Vega that was a gift from one of the beauty pageants, and she and I was like shaking like leaves on a tree, and especially me. And I can still tell you what we wore. I had this long dress on. Back then we wore long dresses, and it had a slit. And it was like a kind of a sailor type outfit that I had. And she had this long dress that I think she borrowed from her director of her pageant. It said, I love you all over it. And typical. And so we went to the door, and to be honest with you, I don't know who greeted us at the door, if it which maid it was, or if it was one of the guys. I can't remember. I think it was one of the guys, but all I remember is Red was there. Ricky Stanley came later. We were let in, and we sat down in the jungle room. And at the time, it didn't have a lot of the furniture that became the famous jungle room. There was a green sofa, and they removed that later on. But that's where we sat. And I remember Red being there, and I really didn't know anybody else, and I can't tell you which maid was there, because being so nervous and not knowing anybody, believe me, you're in a state of shock. I was just so thrilled. And, so then it was about maybe 15, 20 minutes. Elvis comes down, and he's got this beautiful white shirt, and this fancy belt, I think from Vegas, one of the fancy belts from Vegas. And, he just looked absolutely gorgeous. He was 37, if I'm not mistaken, back then. And he just looked splendid. So, he says, "Come on, girls, we're going to go, for a tour," and so he took us through the trophy room, and he's showing us all the different trophies and the gold records and all that. And I remember because I was always fascinated by the movies, and I just said, "Well, what was your favorite movie?" And he said. I'd say King Creole. He said because he looked at Red. He says right Red because they really let me act in that one, and so I agree because I mean if you really watch that, he did put a lot into that. I think he's underestimated as an actor, and I think we all feel that way. He wasn't given a chance, and then. He said something to Red. He said the most fun, he said, was probably Clam Bake, and that was one of my favorite movies. I love that because I liked Shelley Fabre.
All right.
Because I remember loving Girl Happy, and I bought the soundtrack, and I liked Spin Out. Everyone that Shelley Fabre, I don't know what it was, but I think they really had a nice rapport. I heard they got along very, very well. So he said they had a water fight with the mayor. And that's why they had a good time on the set. So he said that was one of their most fun times. So we decided to take pictures. So I had my trusty little $15 Kodak Instamatic camera that I got at Woolworths. And I can't believe that you people still have Woolworth stores here because ours are all closed. So I was very excited to see one because it brings back a lot of memories. And of course, it was all because of that camera that I got some very, very infamous shots. But so I said, I want to get some pictures. So Elvis and Linda stood there at the front door, and he started to kiss her and carry on. And I kept snapping away. And then I said, well, I want a picture too. So Red grabbed the camera, and I stood there smiling. And Elvis just, turned around, grabbed me, and laid a kiss on me like you would not believe. A real kiss, not a little peck on the cheek, a real kiss. And my knees buckled. Not just because he was Elvis Presley, because the man was the best kisser you could ever imagine, and only a woman that has kissed this man would know, and all the women that I've talked to that have really kissed him know. I mean, how can you miss two? I call it, first of all, he's got the most sensuous lips in the world, and he's got the dreamy bedroom eyes, so right there he's golden. But I mean, he's got these pillow type lips that are just like cushy, and you just want to chew them, and to kiss that, oh, it was just, and I had to be calm because, I mean, I'm not the type of person that would try to steal my best friend's man anyway. And I know Elvis did not do this out of disrespect. I want to make that clear. He did it to shock me and to give me a thrill, which he did. And he loved to kiss. He was a lover. Elvis, was a lover. We all know that. And he gave me a thrill, absolutely, positively. And I was just absolutely ecstatic. So then he said, we're going for a ride, he said, around the grounds. So we hopped in the golf cart, and he was driving, Linda was on the side, and I was sitting in the back, no cushion, with Red West. And here we are with these long dresses, and Elvis was a danger, is an understatement, on danger on wheels, or hell on wheels.
Okay.
I mean, we were flying all around Graceland, going, down these steps, flying, and I mean, my backside was just a mess. I bruised very, very easy, and I'm going, he's going to kill us. He's going to kill us. And then what he does, apparently, with everybody when he takes you for a ride, he went over all the old cornrows, and very, very sore on your backside. So I wasn't too happy about that, but I can't believe I didn't fall off. I mean, Red protected me well. Red is was an excellent bodyguard, really. It was fun, though. It was fun. I mean, you're with Elvis, who cares? And you're going flying by the gate, and of course the fans were all excited, screaming, like these lucky girls. And you're saying to yourself, is this really happening? Honestly. So after that, we sat down, and all of a sudden Elvis said, we'll be back. So he takes Linda's hand, and they go upstairs. And so me being very protective of Linda, knowing she's this sweet little innocent virginal creature that she was, was a wreck. I just thought that he was going to take advantage of her because I said, this is Elvis Presley. I mean, I can't, believe that this is happening, and I can't really do anything about it. So I was a little upset, and we were supposed to leave. This was probably because we went there kind of late. So I'm thinking this was around maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe. And so we were supposed to leave at about 3 o'clock in the morning to go to Gulf Shores, Alabama with Linda's family. There was going to be about 13 of us in all, about 3 carfuls of people. It's a place that they rent out like a little cottage on the beach every year, and they still do. I talked to Laurie, and they said they still do this, which I think is fantastic. But we were supposed to, be home, and she's upstairs now, and I'm getting very nervous. So I said to Red, finally, because I just couldn't relax. Ricky Stanley came in and other people. They're all milling around, and I was drinking, I don't know, Diet Coke or something. And I said, Red, can I call upstairs? I said, we really have to meet Linda's family. We're supposed to go on vacation. So he said, call I think it was 7. Number 7. I just remember that for some reason. Extension 7. So he goes, hello? And I went, Elvis? Hate to bother you, but is Linda there? What do you say? And he says, yeah, what's the problem? And I said, well, we're supposed to, meet Linda's family to go on this vacation. And I just don't want them to worry. And he says, okay, honey, we'll be down shortly. I said, okay, Elvis. And I'm like, oh, God. So another couple of hours went by.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. And you're talking like, I think it was like 4:30 or something like that. So I said to Red, I said, can I call up there again? I said, because Linda's family must be flipping out. And so I called up again. Hello? And he didn't sound out of breath. So I guess that was a good sign. But anyway, oh, what a voice, though. You don't even know. It's like calling, in this, like a god answering the phone. I mean, it was so sexy and just, you just can't even imagine. I mean, you feel like you're in a whole nother world. You're in a total state of shock, believe me. And so I told him again, I said, oh, Elvis, I said, I really hate to bother you. I said, but Linda's family must be really, really getting upset. And I said, and, they weren't cell phones back then. No. And, I was going to call them, but I just didn't know what to do. So he said, we'll be right down. So we'll be right down. So about 15 minutes later, it came down. So they didn't look too mussed up. So, especially her. So I said, okay, maybe everything's okay, and she's still intact, if you know what I mean. So when we were pulling away, saying goodbye now, he gave me another kiss, but it wasn't a big one. He kissed me on the lips, and he just very quickly, and so that was my second kiss. And he's saying goodbye to Linda on her side, the driver's side, and he's kissing her and hugging her and carrying on and all this. And I'm like, wow, But now I'm thinking, okay, when we pull away, I'm hearing this whole story. So when we did, I screamed at her. I said, please don't tell me that anything happened up there. And she said, honest to God, Jeannie, nothing happened. She said, we just kissed and hugged and all that. And she said, but he actually was reading from the Bible and these spiritual books, and he was just as much of a gentleman as you can imagine. We were just laying up there in bed, and she said he's got this big, huge bed, and she said he was wonderful. She said he really was. She said he's very respectful. She said he knows I'm a virgin. And she said, and he respects that. And I said, oh, thank you, God. I couldn't believe it. I said, oh my God, the man is perfect. Wow. So that made me more of a fan than I already was, believe me. And then I got I got a kiss. I said, wow. I said, how lucky am I? So when we got home, back to Linda's Aunt Betty's house, they were all waiting up, and of course they were worried sick, and everybody's milling around. You know, there's 13 people all waiting on us, and I walked in and I went, "You're never going to believe this, but you know, Linda was up there with Elvis, and nothing happened. But you know, I know you're going to find that hard to believe, but the man is a saint. The man is a saint. He didn't try to anything, and I got a kiss too." I said, "So how do you like that?" And I said, "It was all worth it. And we're sorry we're late, but it was all worth it." And Aunt Betty was just like ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic. You don't know. And so we left, and we had the best time, you know, in Gulf Shores, Alabama. You know, the family, and we just couldn't stop talking about Elvis. Of course, we listened to the so-called tapes all the way down there. Remember, we listened a lot to Elvis country at the time, and to this day, every time I hear those songs, it brings back some great memories. Even just recently, I bought one of the revised ones just because of the memories.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And I remember Linda saying, you know, because they put us in a room together, and I remember Linda saying, you know, "Jeannie, you know, you think Elvis will remember?" Because she said we were going away for a couple of weeks, and she said, "You think he'll remember me when I get back?" And I said, "Linda," I said, "let me just tell you something. If because I just thought she was this perfect woman in a lot of ways. I mean, she was just charming and sweet and beautiful and funny. And I said, if I was a man, I'd ask you to marry me. You know, just because, you know, I just felt like if I was a guy, I mean, she's got everything. So that's how I felt. So I said, well, if Elvis has any brains, you know, he'll call you." And I am very perceptive. I just felt it, you know, just like I kind of felt when I was a kid, watching the movies. I remember saying to a boyfriend at the drive-in, we double dated, and we were watching Spin Out.
Oh.
And he was kissing all the girls. He was kissing Shelley Fabre, Diane McBain, and Deborah Wally. I just remembered all the names. And I said to my date, who was trying to kiss me, and I wasn't interested, I just said, see him up there. I said, someday I'm going to meet him, and I said, I'm going to get a kiss too. I mean, isn't that ironic?
Where fate comes into a lot.
Yeah. I just find that odd that I felt this connection. I mean, you know, I knew I'd never be a girlfriend. I just did not have the confidence that Linda, I could never have handled someone like Elvis, but I loved being in the position that I was in, and just being on the sidelines or the third wheel, so to speak.
Yeah.
But so we had a wonderful time in Gulf Shores, and we were there for 2 weeks. And when we got back, you know, the phone rang, and it was, I think it was Joe. And he said, "Where have you been? Elvis has been frantic trying to get a hold of you." And she says, "I told him I was going to be away for 2 weeks." So he said, "I want, you know, he wants to talk to you." And so he got on the phone, and he said, "Where have you been?" You know, and all this. And so she said, "I told you." And he said, "Well, you know, I didn't believe you. You know, I just thought you were saying that because try to get away from me and all this." And I said, "Oh my goodness, trying to get away from him." And so he said he was going to L.A. and he said, you know, he wanted her to join him for the rehearsals for Vegas. And so she got all of her little outfits together to try to look nice, you know, and for LA. And so she took off, went to LA, and then she came back, and I was staying with Aunt Betty and the family, and they were wonderful to me. And she then had to go to Vegas. When she came back, she showed me some gifts he had bought her. It was a beautiful emerald and diamond ring, which is her birthstone, with a matching bracelet. And so those were the first gifts that he had given her. And she said he was wonderful. You know, he was still a gentleman. He still respected her and understood where she was coming from, and said whenever she was ready, you know, they could go on from there. And I thought that was great. And it was just brilliant. I have to say that. Brilliant.
So, Jeannie, Linda goes to Las Vegas with Elvis, fairy tale happening, and then you go home to Rhode Island. Did you think you're part of the fairy tale? Did you think you'd see Elvis again at that point?
Never.
No, you didn't. You thought
Never.
it was just a...
Never.
So, but then, how long went by then before you heard from...
It was almost a year. It was June, okay? And so she called me, and she did call me, you know, every couple of weeks, sometimes a month, and late at night always. She always woke me up, wake up the family, but they got used to it after a while. Usually about 1 o'clock in the morning, but that was their schedule. So she calls me and says that they're on tour, and how would I like to join them in New York? Because, you know, it's the closest place that they were going to be. And so I said, fine. She said, you got a room? She says, well, we'll have a room for you. And so I said, okay. I said, I'll hop a train. This was my first train ride. So I was excited. So this was going to be Nassau in New York. And so I get there. And I'm all excited. Of course, get to see the first show. I didn't see Elvis before the show, but I saw Linda. Of course, it was like Old Home Week. Red took a picture of us. I remember we were kind of talking, and we kind of looked at the camera, surprised. And so the show was unbelievable. This was my first show. It was like they said, it's mind-boggling with the lights and the excitement and the explosion going on when he comes on that stage. Absolutely amazing. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. It's just, and to be with Linda, you know, we were actually in the audience. I mean, a lot of times she'd sit on the side of the stage, but we sat in the audience at this particular show. And she's loaded with, she has a ring on each finger. I mean, you had to see the jewelry that she had. And so she did have 4 rings on each finger, so you can just imagine, plus the bracelets and the watches and everything else and the beautiful clothes. So we, after the show, went up to his suite, and he's sitting there eating grapes. You know, he's got these green grapes, and he's just eating these grapes. And he says, so honey, he said, what you doing now? And so I said, I'm working in cosmetics. And he went, that's nice. He says, how would you like to come on tour with us? And I said, yeah, right, Elvis, sure. And thinking he's kidding, because, you know, I'm used to the practical jokes. I knew he was a practical joker. So he said, I'm serious, he said, because that's the least I could do for taking Linda away from you, because we were supposed to get this apartment together and never did. And I had told him, I said, you know, Elvis, I always said to Linda, if it was anybody else, I never would have forgiven her, but because it's you, I think it's okay. Yeah. And you're the king. God only knows. So anyway, I went on the tour. And so from there, we were in New York, we went to Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Atlanta, and Nashville. But in Atlanta is where we were, I think we were there 2 nights. And this was, I know it was August 29th. And so I was up in my room, and Linda called and said, why don't you come down to the suite? She didn't say Elvis wanted to see you at this point. And so I'm in the suite. She comes and gets me, and Elvis greets me in the hallway. And he's got a blue robe on. He looks gorgeous with the eyes. And he was we were about to go on stage pretty soon. So he was in the blue robe. So he hands me this little white box with my name on it. It was misspelled at first, and then crossed out, and he wrote it again. So he said, honey, he said, I want you to have this for being a good friend to Linda. He said, this is for you. And I said, for what? I didn't do anything. Yeah. And he said, no, I want you to have this. He said, for being a good friend to Linda. And he said, come over here, he said, and sit down and open this. So I sat there, and then Joe Esposito was in a chair. His jeweler, Lowell Hayes, who designed, all the jewelry, I remember seeing the jewelry case, and he was there. And so Linda and Elvis sat on the side of the bed watching me open this box. So I opened the white box, and there was a green velvet box, and I knew it was a ring box. And so I opened it, and I see this 3.5 carat diamond ring
And that is the ring.
Yeah, sparkling away, and it's shaped, and I was hysterical. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was just this beautiful waterfall, like crystally thing, and I shut the box and started to cry.
Can I have a look at that a little bit closer?
Sure.
I don't have to get too close to see that. That's that's a wonderful ring, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
And your reaction, obviously, was
I was crying.
overwhelmed. Yep.
Yes, I was crying, and I shut the box, and he was just sitting there with that beautiful crooked grin, just so happy, and got so much enjoyment and satisfaction from giving gifts. I mean, that was his joy.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that because he didn't live a normal life,
No.
and so I really think he was a giver more than a receiver, and everyone, I think, agrees with that. But he said, honey, he said, calm down. He said, because I hugged his neck and I'm crying, and he said, calm down. He said, I want to put it on your finger, and I thought, oh. And so he goes to put it on my finger, and of course it got stuck on my knuckle because it wasn't sized for me. And I said, wait a minute. And I started to wet my finger, and it slid right on. And I kept going, oh my God, oh my God. Of course, it was my left hand back then. I wasn't married, and so I didn't take it off for the longest time. I mean, I take it off to clean it, but I wore it all the time for years and years and years and years. I can't tell you how long. So it was very special indeed. But I mean, that man, and he gave away about 15 rings that day to complete strangers, but I have to admit mine was the prettiest. Oh, he did say, too, I got to throw this in. He said to me after he put it on, he said, and honey, he said, did you notice it's shaped like a cross? And I said, really? And he said, yes. He said, it's shaped like a cross. And, the diamonds there's 25 diamonds, 24 of them, all the same size, and the largest one is in the top, in the middle. But it's a beautiful design, and from what I understand, it's, one of a kind. That's what I heard anyway. I've never seen one like it. And especially where I come from, and then, it'd be interesting to find out from Lowell Hayes if there was another one like it. But I feel very fortunate indeed, and I have to say it was, one of the prettiest thing out of all the rings he gave away. Linda got like 4 rings, and they were monstrosities. But I mean, as far as a beautiful diamond cluster ring, I've never seen anything so pretty. So there's an interesting story after I got the ring. A year later, I guess it was, we were around the dining room, and he grabs my hand and he said, honey, he said, did I give you that ring? And I said, no, Elvis. I said, the Tooth Fairy gave it to me. I said, of course you did. I said, who else would give me a ring like that? And he said, well, I got to tell you, he said, that's the daintiest mother I ever gave to anybody. So, I mean, to him, this is dainty.
Yeah.
But if you see some of the jewelry that he had, I guess it was pretty dainty. I mean, it's just an extraordinary design.
So, you'd gone on tour with Elvis, which must have been fantastic, from especially insider's point of view. Was it special to be sitting in the audience? I mean, it would have always been special sitting in the audience seeing Elvis, but knowing that you'd met him and knew him already, did it add an extra dimension to it?
Oh, yes. I mean, you really consider yourself extremely fortunate, and even though I wasn't a girlfriend, which I never could have handled anyway, I just loved being on the sidelines, and I loved, Linda, would say, come on up to the suite, and this is a cute story. When I was on the tour, she said, come on up, and she said, Elvis is sleeping, and she said, and we can talk. And so I went upstairs, and she started to show me all the jewelry that she had, and it was like unbelievable, and some of the clothes. And I mean, it was like being in a jewelry store. And, I really developed an extreme interest in jewelry because of it, and I have sold it, so I know the quality and all that. I mean, we're looking at all the jewelry, and she said, all of a sudden, want to see something cute? And I said, yeah, and I didn't really know what she was talking about. So she opens the door to this room, and it's all dark in there, and I see this vision. It's Elvis sleeping in the bed, naturally, with, I think it was blue pajamas, with the covers up to his neck, just like an angel, like with his little lips, like all pushed out, like you just couldn't even imagine. Most gorgeous sight, like a Greek god. And she closed the door very gently, and I said, "How can you stand it?" I could never be with that vision because I'd be attacking him every 2 minutes. No, I'm kidding, but it's just that, I mean, to be with someone that gorgeous and that famous was amazing. And she was fine with it. She amazed me. She
Took
really,
it in her stride.
yeah, she did. She did. Like I said, it's all about confidence, and she was good for him, and he knew that, she knew that. Their culture was the same. They have the same background, same sense of humor. Both of them had a contagious laugh. That's what I loved about Linda, was her laugh. So Elvis, same thing. If you talk to anyone, they all say, gee, you know what I really miss the most? Elvis's laugh. And I think that there's so much that we miss, but it was really something else. He had a little boy quality to him, childlike.
Up to this point, Jeannie, had you ever met Elvis's daughter, Lisa?
No, but I was about to. Right after Atlanta, the next stop was Nashville.
Okay.
And that was the last leg of the tour, so that's where she was going to be. And then from Nashville, she was going to go home with her dad to Memphis. So I knew I was going to get to meet her. And I was excited. She was 5 years old. And I witnessed the scene again where, I was walking behind Elvis and Linda, and Lisa had a little yellow night dress on, and because it was kind of late, and she came running to her dad, and he scooped her up in his arms, and I said, "Can I get a picture?" And he actually had her in his arms and was looking at her very lovingly, and she had her hand up like this, and I snapped one of the most famous poses. Yeah, I mean, it's in my book, and you've seen it all over the place. And then I had the nerve to say, "Can I get a picture of the three of you?" And Elvis obliged, and he got on his knee. Linda sat on the sofa with Lisa on her lap, and it looks like a portrait. It's lovely. And Elvis had his karate gi on. He wore these a lot when we went on tour and everything. It's a great photo because he's on one knee, he's got one knee up, and it was wonderful. So she was just precious, beautiful little girl, and you could tell how much he loved her. You really could. It was wonderful.
Jeannie, when you just mentioned this, and it just sparked something off, Elvis wore his karate gi a lot as casual clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't there a story sometime about you were out driving and Elvis bought himself a drink? And
Yeah. This was when we went for a ride in my new car that he bought me with a leopard top, and I couldn't drive it. I had a stick shift, and so we went to the 7-Eleven, and Linda went in. Elvis was driving. Linda went in to get the drinks, and I was in the back seat. And so when Elvis put the shift in gear to back up, the drink, which I believe it was a dark colored drink, I know he drank Pepsi, so I think it was Pepsi, and it just went flying all over this white karate gi, and every swear word came out of his mouth. It was mother this, mother that, and he was very angry, to say the least. And I wanted to crawl in a hole and just die because I didn't know where to go. But it's funny, really funny at the time. But Elvis wasn't too thrilled. I mean, I wouldn't have been either if I got spilled with a dark drink all over a white outfit. So yeah, that was very funny. It was very funny.
okay, Jeannie, so we're at the end of that first tour you went on. You met Lisa, and it was all, the incredible experience. About sometime after this time, Elvis got divorced, or his divorce came through. Where were you at this time? Did you go back
I had
home?
gone after the tour. I went back home, and so it was a couple of months. And Linda called me, of course it was October, and said Elvis was going for his divorce in California. How would I like to come to Memphis and spend some girl time? And of course I didn't refuse. So hopped the plane, and so this was my first experience, seeing the upstairs of Graceland. And, I can't tell you what that's like because, first of all, a lot of people envision, I think, Graceland's a mansion and all, but they don't realize the rooms, aren't as big as some mansions that I've been in since. And of course, Elvis's bed is 9 by 9, so it takes up quite a bit of the room. And of course, his TV was huge. Everything was larger than life, so it took up the room. But I can't tell you what that feels like to be in Elvis Presley's bedroom. And I was just ecstatic and excited beyond words. And I remember saying to Linda, "Can I take some pictures?" And she said, "Sure." And Elvis knew about it. So, I snapped away some pictures of the bedroom. And I remember taking pictures in the bathroom, but getting this eerie feeling, and I can't really explain it, but I wanted to take a picture, actually pictures in general, to show my family, because I figured no one's going to believe this. And but I did get an eerie feeling about the bathroom, and I wanted to get the shower because it was such a pretty shower. I mean, you could see all the different, like Alka-Seltzer on the counter, like a normal person. Had normal things on the counter, like we all do, medicines and things. And I took a picture of of course, the office and Lisa Marie's room, and it just was fascinating to be up there. And we had sleepovers. Of course, we had a sleepover while Elvis was away with Linda's cousin Laurie and her cousin Janet. And a funny picture that was taken that I didn't even know about until I developed the camera was in the middle of the night when I was sleeping with rollers in my hair and my green eyeshadow. Linda snapped a picture of me with the covers up to my neck. And because I was freezing, because Elvis kept the room like a meat locker. So I was sleeping there, and it looks like I'm smiling.
I believe that picture's in your book,
Yes,
isn't
it is. Yes,
it might
it
be a
is.
good idea to mention your book here, Jeannie. I've got it sitting here with me. Elvis, Linda and me. And all those pictures you're just talking about
Are in the book.
Are in the
Yep.
book, and they're all colour pictures of...
There's 70 colored pictures.
70 colored pictures.
70 colored pictures,
Yeah.
and they're all of the upstairs that some people have never seen and never will see because it's off limits. But this is the collector's edition, which my publisher also has a black and white version, but this is the collector's edition hardback, 8.5 by 11 with 70 colored pictures. The other one obviously has black and white photos, which isn't as vivid as this, and this way you can really see how it really looked. And there's the picture of me with the rollers in my hair with smiling, and that's Laurie's arm next to me, because Laurie slept in the middle.
And of course, Graceland was decorated different then, as
Yes.
we can see the red.
The red,
red carpet
yeah.
and everything.
But I believe that the bedroom is still the same.
Still the
it's
same,
still
yeah.
the same. I think they left everything the same. They did the downstairs back to the blue and white era when I believe Priscilla was there. It was fascinating. I feel so fortunate to have taken those pictures, because the fans encouraged me to write this book because they were so intrigued. I didn't really realize how valuable these are as far as the interest to the fans, and how many people are fascinated and mesmerized by the mystique of the upstairs. So I do consider myself very, very fortunate, and I have to say the fans have been very supportive and grateful that I put them in the book and made them available.
Oh, sure, they are. Yeah, it's a wonderful book.
Thank you. And she said, "How would you like to come to Vegas?" She said, "We're going to have a suite." She said, "I'm going to stay with you in the suite because I'm mad at him right now." So again, I said, I'll be there. I'll be there, like that old.
It didn't take long to think about that one either.
It didn't. So I arrived at this beautiful suite, but by the time I arrived, little did I realize they made up. So I had all this big suite to myself. I mean, I had a bar, I had everything, a big king size bed. You know, I don't think I had even seen a king size bed before this point. And I mean, the most comfortable thing. But I had my Elvis ring, and I thought I was cool. You know, I was just ecstatic. And you know, but I didn't have a whole lot of like fancy clothes to wear or anything like that. And Linda did take me shopping, and picked up this beautiful, I love brown, and this long, not a gown, but a long dress, elegant dress, and it reminded me of an angel because it had like a built-in kind of like a look, almost like a cape built in, but it was jersey and it was flowing and it had like the scalloped edge. I'll never forget that dress. I think I still might even have it. No, I think I got rid of that one, but it was just so much fun. And the shows, even though I was alone, I got to see all the shows. Got to see about 5 or 6 of them, I would say. And
so around about this time of '74, Elvis has already been interested in karate. We touched on that earlier. But at this point, he was putting some of those moves and things into his show.
I recall that. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
do.
he did. He did extremely at times. He did, and it was great because it wasn't like some of the moves that Tom Jones did. Tom Jones had his own style. We all know that. Very erotic type style. But Elvis got into the physicality of the karate exercise.
Yeah.
And so he would put this into his show, and I think that everybody appreciated that. I also felt like that too. It was to show you can't mess with me because I mean he knew how to protect himself.
He'd put the karate guy on top
the karate
and dance around with it.
Yes, he put it on, and I witnessed that. So it was very intriguing. I was impressed.
Yeah.
I was very impressed because of course he wore the karate gis too on tour, and he was proud of that.
Yeah.
7th degree black belt. He was very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
And I think the audience enjoyed that very much. I do.